Is Peppa Pig bad for our kids? Does Peppa Pig work in my home? Hey everybody, welcome back to the couch. I'm Melissa and this is Couch Mom Club. Well, the short answer is yes. I do allow the girls to watch Peppa Pig in moderation. Peppa Pig is a kid's cartoon that first released in 2004. The show is about a pig family, Mom Pig, Dad Pig, George, the little son, and Peppa, the star of the show. Each episode depicts Peppa's childhood experiences, challenges, and it kind of goes through Peppa Pig's day-to-day life. It shows the problems that she goes through and the different challenges that she faces. You know, it kind of just revolves around the character, Peppa. The show is simple. It's brightly colored with playful illustrations and has upbeat music. The pacing is relatively slow, but it is engaging, and there are usually relatable topics that allow my girls to really get into. If you remember in a previous video that I outlined the simple criteria for selecting a show for my kids, we use those questions to kind of determine whether or not we're going to allow our children to watch a show. And although there are a few red flags in the show Peppa Pig, we still allow them to watch. And this is because we tend to engage the show with our kids, and we are ensuring that we don't allow the screens to parent for us. We still parent our kids. So when there's questionable things in the show, we definitely engage them and we ask questions, and we just make sure that our children are understanding what we expect of them, and we kind of discuss what is happening in the show. Because of this, we do still allow our kids to watch Peppa Pig, but there are a few things that parents have noted and a few things that I want you to be aware of. An example of this, parents have often said that their children have picked up a particular accent after watching the show.
This is Mommy Pig.
Parents report that their kids have sometimes used Anglo-English pronunciation of certain things, and I found that this was true for my kids. I often heard my daughters refer to me as mommy. They would often call me from another room, mommy. And they did this for a while, and even though it didn't last long, other parents have found that their kids have said other words and phrases with English accent, or they use different pronunciation for words. One of the common ones that I found was parents are reporting that their kids are asking for biscuits instead of cookies. It happens.
I need to go pee.
This is because the characters in the show have English accents. Kids who engage in the show will start to mock the characters and will probably use this language or phrasing in their day-to-day lives.
Daddy, bye-bye.
Like most other shows, academic peer-reviewed studies are difficult to find. So we rely on anecdotal evidence to inform us about the show. And most studies will argue that screens before the age of 2 can be problematic, particularly in their cognitive development and their speech development. Some studies have found that screens before 2 can cause challenges for the child where they're not able to pay attention and have challenges to their listening skills. This can be said across the board, but Sophia Giles, a child behavioral expert, has mentioned some negative messaging that can be found in Peppa Pig. This is regarding Peppa Pig's behavior and how it causes your children to behave. And she also talks about how the father is depicted in the show.
Easy as pie. Oh, it's not meant to do that.
In my observation, I found that both George and Peppa can be very bratty and very misbehaved. Peppa in particular can be quite bossy and very rude at times. Even the dad, I noticed that he is often characterized as either too fat or too stupid. And this is problematic for me because for me, it downplays the importance of the father in the home and perpetuates that narrative of the broken family. And I hate that. Another thing that concerns me about the show is that George has a bit of a communication issue. I don't know if he is nonverbal or if he hasn't learned to speak yet. I'm not sure, but he does not really talk. I think one of the only words that he says is dinosaur. This is a little problematic for me. Some parents question whether or not George is autistic, which nobody ever explicitly says it in the show. But I've noticed that my girls will sometimes grunt or whine instead of using their words. So that's where we come in and we reinforce the idea of using our words. Our children have words for days. All 3 of them talk a lot.
Peppa, lazy.
So when they are grunting or whining or complaining instead of speaking and verbalizing their concerns, we know that this is not necessarily them, but rather a behavior that they've learned or picked up. And I have a suspicion that it could be from Peppa Pig. So we are obviously teaching our children as they are watching the show. If the show is displaying behavior or things that we don't necessarily like to see in our kids, we have a conversation about it. Obviously, we keep it age appropriate and we get them to understand what is expected of them. Of course, this is because screens do not parent our kids, but we are actively parenting our kids. Peppa Pig can often be seen as fat shaming her father, particularly. She is often a sore loser if she doesn't win a game. She is seen, being rude to her friends in some episodes and even mean to her little brother. And these are all things that other parents have noted. And Sophia Giles has also written about these behaviors. I find that these are natural things that come out in your children if you watch them long enough, if you observe them playing with other kids. These are things that are natural to them. But of course, when you're seeing it depicted in your favorite TV show, you might get the picture that these kind of behaviors are acceptable. They're not. Well, at least not in my home. And that's why we are actively engaged with our children. And if we do see these type of behaviors displayed both in the show and in our kids, we are there to step in and guide them and show them the right way. Of course, you always have to take an active role in your parenting. If you are allowing your kids to watch anything, you have to remember that the screens do not take the place of your job as a parent. You still have to do your job. Even though we found some negative aspects about the show, we still allow our girls to watch. Each episode is about 5 minutes, so this could either mean that we can easily redirect our children after 1 or 2 episodes, or you can get carried away watching episode after episode after episode. I'm hoping this won't be the case for you. I'm hoping that you will know when to cut your children off. And a good sign to tell whether or not the screen is parenting or if you are parenting is how easily your child is able to redirect or start a new task when you take away the screen. Is the kid having a meltdown? Is removing the screen problematic for your child? These are things to kind of note when you are shifting from one activity to the next. And these are things to pay attention to if you are using screens in the home. If you are having trouble taking that screen or turning Peppa Pig off, you might have an issue. And that's just something that you want to maybe pay attention to. Peppa Pig, it does work in our house. There are some challenges to the show, as I've mentioned before. Of course, if you are going to let your kids watch, just be aware that if you are going to allow your kids to watch the show, there are things that you need to pay attention to. Watch the behavior. Are they different after watching the show? These are all questions that you should already be asking yourself no matter what your kids are watching.
Shush, Peppa, don't tell anyone.
So in the next video, let's talk about Blippi. Does Blippi work in my home? What do you think? So hit that subscribe button and ring that bell if you want to join the couch conversation, and watch this video to get some guidelines on how to introduce screens to your kids. I've noticed that the dad is often characterized as either too fat or too stupid. Sorry, I'm going to go back because I said stupid.
I noticed that.
Yeah.